Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're unpacking a topic that, honestly, touches pretty much everyone at some point. Yeah, we're talking about debt. But we're not just going to sit here and stress about it. Specifically, we're looking at practical, totally actionable strategies to absolutely crush your debt and finally reclaim your hard-earned income. So, are you feeling a bit suffocated by consumer debt right now? Look, if you are, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are not alone. And honestly, it's completely natural to feel overwhelmed. I mean, our entire economy literally thrives on debt. Think about it for a second. Cars, houses, even the shoes on our feet are often financed somehow. Whether it's a personal loan, swiping your credit card, or a payment plan, paying strictly in cash has kind of become the exception, not the rule. If you walked into a car dealership today with a briefcase full of cash, they'd probably look at you like you had three heads. So when those balances start stacking up, don't ignore them, but seriously, don't beat yourself up either. Because you absolutely have options. Like I said, you are definitely not alone. Just to put this into perspective, look at Australia. A massive 38% of people there are just swimming in credit card debt. And it gets crazier. An astonishing 22% of young Australians are battling buy now, pay later debt. I mean, those percentages are staggering. What starts out as totally innocent everyday purchases can quickly snowball into something suffocating if we're not paying attention. And what's really wild is the sheer scale of the situation. $200,000. That right there is the average debt carried by Australians at any given moment. 200 grand. If you're carrying a heavy burden of financial anxiety right now, well, that number validates exactly why. It's a massive load to carry. But hey, here is the good news. We actually have proven, widely accepted strategies to tackle this mountain. So let's jump into our first heavyweight strategy and see how we can start chipping away at all this. Section 1. The avalanche method. Minimizing the cost. All right, so this is an accelerated math-based approach. It relies on one absolute core principle. Every single dollar you borrow comes with a specific cost, and that cost is dictated strictly by its interest rate. Basically, a dollar borrowed at 2% is simply cheaper than a dollar borrowed at 6%. Makes sense, right? So the avalanche method ruthlessly targets those high-cost dollars first to minimize your overall cost of borrowing. How do we pull this off? Well, here are the exact steps. Step 1. You have to pay the minimums on all your debts. There's literally no point making amazing progress on one debt if you're defaulting on the others. Get those minimums covered. Step 2. Take any spare funds you have and direct them entirely to the debt with the highest interest rate. Remember, we're looking at the percentage rate here, not the total dollar amount you owe. If you've got a debt sitting at 12%, that needs to go way before a debt at 6%. And finally, step 3. Repeat. Once that highest interest loan is knocked out, you take all those extra funds and roll them right into the next highest interest rate. As each debt gets eliminated, you free up more cash to tackle the next one, which massively accelerates your progress. You're taking out the highest rates first so they don't even get a chance to grow. Let's actually unpack a tricky concept that trips a lot of people up. If you compare a $1,000 loan at 2% to a $10,000 loan at 1%, the avalanche method tells us we absolutely must pay off that $1,000 loan first. But wait, why? Well, because technically, dollar for dollar, that $1,000 debt is more expensive. Every single dollar in that smaller balance is priced at 2%, compared to just 1% on the much larger debt. I know, it feels totally counterintuitive to ignore a $10,000 balance that's costing more in total dollars. But mathematically speaking, you're paying a higher premium for that smaller loan. Section 2. The snowball method. Building momentum. Now, if math isn't exactly your main motivator, this next strategy is for you because it completely ignores interest rates and focuses entirely on momentum. Here's how the snowball method works. Step 1 is exactly the same. Pay the minimums on all your debts every single month. But step 2, that changes drastically. You take those spare funds and direct them strictly toward the smallest balance you have. So if you have a $1,000 debt and a $4,000 debt, you attack that $1,000 debt first, regardless of the interest rate. And step 3, repeat for quick wins. Once that smallest debt is fully zeroed out, you redirect those funds to the next smallest debt. The secret sauce here is the psychological boost. Seeing a debt completely disappear provides this immense motivation as you work your way up to the larger debts. It's just incredibly encouraging to see those quick wins on the board. So let's put them head to head. Avalanche on one side, snowball on the other. Avalanche saves you the most money in the long run, period. It stops those high interest rates from growing unchecked. But snowball builds the most momentum. In fact, the snowball method is highly recommended for beginners because it doesn't require any complex financial literacy. You don't have to sit there comparing interest rates or calculating percentages. You literally just look at the smallest number and attack it. Now, the downside to snowball, of course, is that larger high-interest debts might just sit there growing and ultimately cost you more overall. But hey, if you need that pure motivation to keep going, snowball is an incredibly powerful tool. Section 3. Fueling your debt payoff.
Okay, let's address the elephant in the room here. Both of these methods rely on one magical ingredient, spare funds. But if you're already feeling crushed by debt, finding spare change feels literally impossible. And let's be honest, when some people hear the word budget, they instantly feel trapped. Setting up a complicated spreadsheet takes time and energy that a lot of us just don't have. So, how do we actually fuel this debt payoff? Well, you can identify overspending without a massive spreadsheet. Most of us deep down kind of know where we can cut back for a little while. Here are a few rapid-fire practical things you can do. First, cancel those unused streaming services. Come on, we all have at least one we're paying for and never even watch. Next, start meal prepping your lunches for work instead of buying a $15 sandwich every day. The discomfort is only short-term, I promise. But the real key to success is taking those newly found extra funds, that $30 from streaming, that $50 from lunches, and actually making additional debt payments rather than just pocketing it or wasting it. Those short-term sacrifices are exactly what create the fuel you need to dramatically accelerate either your avalanche or your snowball.
And all of this leads perfectly into a necessary mindset shift. It's this. Debt is essentially stolen future income. Beyond the obvious risk of default, carrying significant consumer debt makes building a stable financial future nearly impossible. Why? Well, because the more debt you carry, the less disposable income you're going to have in the future. Every single time you use credit, you are essentially reaching into the coming months and stealing the money that would have been available to future you. I actually want to slow down for a second here because this quote from our source material is just incredibly powerful. Is this purchase worth earning $80 less next week? It might seem obvious that debt has to be repaid, but let's reframe it. Let's say your minimum debt repayment is $80 a week. At first glance, you might think, yeah, sure, I can manage $80. But the truth is, that $80, it isn't yours anymore. You've already committed it to the credit card company. You are literally going to work next week just to hand that cash straight over to a bank. If you pause and ask yourself this specific question before making a purchase, you might seriously reconsider whether that new debt is actually worth it.
Section 4. Mastering your mortgage. Now let's pivot to the absolute largest debt most people will hold in their entire lifetime, the mortgage. And it is super vital to note right up front that you should not include your mortgage in the avalanche or snowball methods. If your balance is well over 120 grand, trying to snowball it is just going to completely derail your process. For example, in Australia, most mortgages are structured as 30-year terms. They are intentionally designed by the banks to take a long time to pay off, so the bank can profit from literal decades of interest. Avalanche and Snowball are tailored specifically for consumer debts, not massive, long-term mortgages. But we do have a phenomenal hack for mastering this. You see, mortgage interest is typically calculated daily, yet most people make their payments just once a month. Waiting that full 30 days allows the bank's interest to just sit there and accrue for the entire month before you finally make a dent in it. In contrast, if you switch to fortnightly payments, meaning paying every 2 weeks, you cut that accrual period down to about 15 days. You are effectively starving the bank of its daily interest accrual. Because less interest has built up between those payments, way more of your money goes directly toward paying down your actual principal balance. While it might make budgeting just a tiny bit more challenging at first, this one simple switch can literally reduce the length of your mortgage by years and potentially save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. It's a total game changer.
So what does this all mean? The crucial takeaway here is that taking action, whether that's through the avalanche method, the snowball method, or optimizing your mortgage, gives you your power back. Which brings us to our final and maybe most provocative question. What will you do when your future income is 100% yours again? Just imagine that $80 a week actually staying in your pocket. You could build a rock-solid emergency fund so you can finally stop panicking over unexpected expenses. You could start investing to really secure your financial future. Or, at the very minimum, you could put that money toward a much-needed, well-deserved holiday. The discomfort of budgeting and aggressively paying down debt is strictly short-term, but the freedom on the other side, that lasts a lifetime. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you take that very first step toward totally crushing your debt.